Cosa Resources out with some exciting news this week, announcing their winter exploration campaign is set to begin here in just a few short days. CEO Keith Bondarchuk's on the show here just to walk us through the news release, such as it is, and maybe just a couple of quick follow-up questions so we can kind of get into the meat of it here a bit. So, Keith, thanks for your time and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, great to be back on here.
Well, yeah, quick and dirty. I mean, do you just want to give us a rundown of the news release, right? Obviously, here I have the headline up, right? You've got. Can you just give us the elevator pitch to help people that don't read news releases all the way through?
Yeah, my pleasure. First, we're excited that we're going to be drilling our Denison joint ventures, Darby and Murphy Lake North. We'll be drilling both of them this winter. This winter meaning from January through to the end of March. These were the two main projects we acquired from Denison in January of last year. Importantly, the Darby project butts right up against Cameco's Cigar Lake project, which is, one of the largest uranium mines in the world. And then Murphy Lake North is a long trend of the Hurricane deposit, which our group is very familiar with because we found during our time working at ISO Energy in 2018. And so this is the most exciting time of the year for us. We've put in Andy, our VPX, and his team have put in the hard work developing, fantastic drill targets. And now we get to put those targets to test here. And like I said, we'll be starting at Darby first and follow that up with Murphy Lake North. A very exciting program. We'll get as many holes and meters done as we can within that time frame, leave the equipment in there, and be back there in the summer with an even larger program at both projects.
Yeah, it is. It is high impact, right? I mean, we've talked about this before. You got that JV with Denison. That's a huge shot of legitimacy for a junior for explorer co such as yourself. You have very prospective land, and high impact discovery drilling almost underway here. So in October, in October, you kind of announced that Charlie and Delta were your identified sort of core targets,
Yeah.
and I'll just kind of get to right. So there's Charlie, there's Delta that on Darby were your core targets, but then new to this news release for people was Gamma, the Gamma trend. What I guess maybe what was the data that kind of came to light that made Gamma sort of get announced in a way that it hadn't been in October?
Yeah, certainly. So I think, at that point, we wanted to get some news out just that we're working in the background and start to get the market excited for Darby to show how excited we were. And then, since October, Andy and the team have continued, to do target generation. And, what we're seeing is, fantastic targets that are also sitting at Gamma. Bravo is another one that's on there. Another one we really like that we will get to hopefully this summer. And just shows, this is a company maker, this project. It's huge. There's lots of amazing target areas. And actually, I was talking to Andy this morning and kind of going through some statistics on this project, right? It's had, 31 holes. That was done over 12 programs by 3 different companies.
Hmm.
And so when you start to look at the project from that level, you're like, okay, there wasn't a lot of repeat people working on it. There were smaller budgets. You couldn't really have, impactful programs where you're drilling the number of holes that we're going to be drilling this year. And so that just screams opportunity to us. And so Andy, and project really hasn't had a person of Andy's caliber spend a long period of time, developing targets on it. And so when we acquired in January, Andy went to work really for those, 8 to 10 months, developing these targets, piecing together all the data, and developing a picture about what's happening underneath the ground. And the more he looks at it, the more he likes it. And so, these are the 4 areas, or sorry, the four target areas we're showing in this press release that we're going to get to. But, maybe we head and drill Charlie and Delta first here off the start, and we don't end up moving, just because that's how high quality targets these are, right? There's a chance that we go and we hit something impactful with the very first drill hole. And, when you look at how discoveries are made in the Athabasca Basin, 9 times out of 10 for discoveries, they're made following up an old historical drill hole. That's just how it works. Geophysics bring you to an area. Usually you need a season or 2 to kind of orient yourself, locate, okay, where's the sweet spot in this geology? So that work's been done for us already.
Hmm.
This project is at that right level of maturity where we can just go in and follow up significant results where, we're fine tuning that target. We're going right for where there could potentially be a deposit. And so that's what excites us. And like I said, you don't need to kind of, focus in on one area, spending all your meters to really try and understand the geology more. We can cherry pick our best targets, because that work has been done with this previous drilling. And um, all of these holes have something in common where they have that elevated geochem, like the one you're showing here. You'll see the red bar that sits down the drill collar. That's higher than 4 ppm uranium, which doesn't seem like a huge amount, but when you understand that normal sandstone in the Athabasca Basin has about 0.2, 0.3 ppm uranium, anything above 0.5 is kind of a general rule, is considered anomalous. And so we're seeing 4 ppm uranium, and uranium's not that mobile. It doesn't move very far from its source. And so when you're seeing those levels of uranium, that's a target you have to run to and drill as fast as you can. And we have multiple targets that we're going to be heading to this winter season to follow up that elevated uranium. That's huge, right? These are grade A quality targets where we do have a real opportunity of making a discovery. No guarantees, obviously, but man, these are great targets, and we're very excited to get out and start drilling these.
Yeah, this is a campaign I am absolutely excited for. Do you just want to? I mean, I have kind of the same iteration, Charlie Delta
Yeah.
Gamma. Did you just want to kind of pick one, your personal favorite, or just maybe one that's
Yeah,
you
go
think,
down. Well, yeah, I think we all. The beauty is that they're all quality targets, and I think each person probably has a slightly different favorite. But you look at this Charlie trend, the one you're showing here, that on the cross section, that pink unit would be a granite. And so that's like the classic unconformity uranium deposit model, where you have this graphitic unit butting right up against the granite. The granite is a hard, competent rock, and so you have that competency contrast of the not so hard, not so competent graphitic peelite that's susceptible to being broken by a fault because of certain pressures coming in, up against that competent rock, the granite. You have fluid flowing through there, right up against that, and that is your classic target. And when you add in the fact that you're following up elevated uranium in the sandstone right next to it, this is, like I said, a tier 1 target. It has a real chance here. These are the targets you really want to go after first. And so this one, I'd say, it's up there for me for sure. The Charlie target, the Charlie trend, and then when you also look at it, from a regional standpoint, it is right close to Cigar Lake, right? That Cigar Lake trend continues on to the project there. So when you add that factor in too, that's what really excites me by it too. Obviously, it's proximity, being closer to Cigar Lake than some of the other trends.
And you've definitely caught some love. I mean, uranium. I mean, we were just chatting before we went live or started recording that you can't almost kind of just throw a dart and the metal you pick is doing well. But yeah, uranium's had a good run, and
Yep.
you guys have appreciated well. COSA's appreciated well over the last few months. You're up, give or take 45 or 50 cents. Nice little launch pad potentially. Maybe I'll ask, so Murphy Lake North, and so
Yep.
this was the one last year that yeah, I mean you can miss these things by just a matter of meters,
Yeah.
and not even necessarily recognize that. And we'll just skip to Murphy Lake North here. So you mentioned 2,500 meters, and I'll get back to meter budget here in a second. But
Yep.
2,500 meters to Darby, 1,200 meters right now to Murphy Lake North, and you announced that you intend to be drilling just on top of a lake, obviously in the winter with the ice is the only time you can get onto those. So I guess maybe my question just around targeting on Murphy Lake North, was there maybe a degree of pragmatism, or maybe it's not necessarily the screaming number one pick, but because it's the wintertime, take advantage of the ice as you have it, or how pragmatic was your stated target for Murphy Lake
So,
North?
so actually, we'll be covering both. Like, we'll be covering, the targets that are, say, the top tier target at Murphy Lake North, which is actually on land. It's not under a lake, and so you don't. We're drilling that also this winter. But there's also, we have a lot of space in this huge alteration zone that is in an area that is easier to access in the winter. So, that brought that obviously to the top of the list, because we don't want to wait another year to test it. So they're high quality targets we wanted to drill. They obviously move up higher in the list when you factor in that you have to access them in the winter. And so, yeah, no, these are great targets that we want to go drill. Some are ones that are only accessible by the winter, but we're also drilling some that could be accessible during the summer too. And so it's kind of a balancing act. And yeah, there's a lot of unfinished business also at Murphy Lake North. There's a reason that we're going back to it this winter, right? And it's kind of the 1A, 1B thing, right? Darby obviously is a much larger project, so there's a lot of runway there, and it's it's our first time drilling there, and so that excites us a lot. But yeah, either one of these projects could yield the discovery that we're looking for.
Come back with that. So to maybe a little bit of nuts and bolts here, but rated drilling, can we expect, is it 40 to 50 meters per 12-hour shift, or what's the rate of drilling up there?
Yeah, so Murphy's quicker because you're like 250 meters down, ish to your target, and so those holes can be done in a couple days. You're kind of drilling that 350-meter hole roughly.
Mhm.
Whereas Darby, on the eastern portion there, Delta Charlie, that's shallower. So you're less than a week a hole there. You're kind of going 500-600 meters total hole. And then, Gamma, slightly deeper, but still not that deep. It's a week a hole. And so you can get through them pretty quickly. I think what we've learned obviously during our time at Ursa, once you kind of get below 800 meters, the time really starts, the holes get a lot longer. The timing of them, and then they get a lot more expensive, right? And so we're much shallower than that. And so, we're kind of, that you can move through these holes relatively quickly. And we have a contractor we've been using forever, dating back to all the previous companies we worked at who are very reliable. They're really the best in the business. And so, we can get through these holes as quickly as possible.
Excellent. And yeah, it's 500 meters and change down for
Yeah,
Darby.
slightly shallower on the eastern side, but yeah, roughly, I think about 500 meters down to the target depth. And for perspective, a lot of the great deposits, and they're kind of just lower than 400 meters, 450, some of the islands. So we're kind of in that vicinity
Right in
for
that
sure. And we're right
wheelhouse,
next
eh?
to Cigar Lake, obviously. So I mean, it's not that much deeper than what they're seeing at
Sure.
Cigar.
Well, and then and I think this is, I mean, yeah, I wanted to keep this quick. I think that, yeah, we have a few weeks here of potentially very exciting news that you can kind of start to just sort of sit on the edge of your seat and wait for that, hopefully that sort of that magic hole, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, lots of potential. Maybe the last question though, Keith, and maybe I'll give you a chance just to say your piece after that. But I just noticed, I mean, yeah, you have 2,500-meter campaign, and obviously these are always subject to change and fluid based on success or whatever. But 2,500-meter budget, Darby, 1,200-meter budget at Murphy Lake North. You have very cheap per meter drilling, right? Obviously, part of that is Denison pitches in 30%, but yeah, you have a very affordable. I think it's just kind of $200 or $300 a meter. You can please correct me from wherever that is, kind of wrong, but I mean, I look down here and I see that you have, $9.5 million of cash and working
Yeah.
capital. Is this just, in the event of technical success, right? In the event of that, not the kind of the screaming barn burner, that just leaves you enough cash to hit the summer without having to go cap in hand to the market, or why are you? Is it fair to say maybe you're playing a little conservative with your cash, or what's the deal there?
No, no, it's definitely you only have a certain window in the winter. So we're this is our first time entering Darby, so we're building the camp. So we're probably, that took a few days, and the drill will be turning here in the next couple of days. And we're gonna get as much drilling as we can um until, the spring melt. So in early April. And so that's it. Those are the meters that we project we can fit in.
Sure,
If we're drilling faster, we have lots of budget. We can keep going. If we get another hole done at Darby, great. We can. We have that freedom. We're just trying to be realistic about the number of meters we think we can accomplish in
sure,
that period of time. But we're going to be going, from when the drill starts turning here in a couple days through to as long as we can before the spring melts. So it's going full bore, as fast as we can.
sure.
And then in the summer there'll be a much larger program. So our intention is, we have probably about 6.5 of that would be flow through. So we're going to spend that, throughout this year, and drilling as much as we can and focused on Darby and Murphy Lake North.
Hmm. Yeah, well, nice to enviable position to be cashed up for multiple campaigns potentially, right? So that's definitely a perk here too. And so heck, here we are. And that's it for me, Keith. I mean, a really high impact drill campaign, a couple days away from spud. Is there anything that you wanted to just to highlight before we depart?
No, this is just, I think it's, we have the best targets we've had as a company. Both Murphy Lake North and Darby have amazing walk up targets that could change the trajectory of our company. And in this kind of environment that we're seeing in uranium, and the tailwinds in the space, the developers, obviously chemicals and stuff, surpassing all time highs.
Hmm.
If you have any sort of, good result with uranium mineralization, your share price is going to explode in this market. And so that excites us, right? We're a team that's created success even in bad uranium markets. And maybe for the first time we're going to time it where we actually make a discovery in a uranium bull market. We haven't had that yet. And so that's really exciting. And these are Andy and the team are putting in all the right work. These are the right targets to go to. You just have to hope that uranium mineralization is there.
Yeah, Mother Nature agrees with you, right? Yeah. So yeah, but there you go, right? I mean, exceptional team, exceptional land, and exceptional tailwinds building. So it's one of those perfect storms that should be exciting for anyone who wants to speculate on some discovery drilling that's happening in very short order. So yeah, Keith Bondarchuk, Cosa Resources, COSA on the venture. Thanks for your time, and yeah, let's hopefully in 3 weeks we can pop some champagne here and we can have another chat then, right? So
I hope so too.
okay, thanks, Keith.